Yes! Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Ivy Mobouck.
Hi everybody. Hi Yaso.
We're here to chat, have a little chat about Access X-Men, and then how it goes with conversations sometimes is that they already start before you press play.
Yes, yes. The Facebook Live started before we had this Facebook Live.
Yeah.
How shall we start? Yeah. So this is a conversation that's going to be about Access X-Men, but with a little entity twist in it.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? Shall I start with what just happened right before we went live?
Yes, please.
Okay. So, Yasa was asking me how I was going today, and I was like, well, I don't know. I've been feeling weird all morning, and especially around where the place where I live. I've only have been living here for a couple of months, and it was a bit of a strange way how I got here, and I didn't really super like it here. But I always have like this thing that I can't get out of here, like I'm stuck. And Yasser reminded me that I always have been very brilliant with finding awesome, amazing places. Just like that, it always works out far greater than I always possibly imagine. And she's like, huh, this is interesting. So this is where the conversations start. So I'm going to leave it to you now, Yaso.
Well, yeah, and it's like one of the things that we also went through the conversation how Access X-Men is not really to create a definition of a new label actually, because what it entices is all these incredible beings. And I guess if you're here, hello everyone, and you're watching this video, that you probably have realized that you are different. Now, what happens with a lot of X-Mens is that either when they're young enough, they get diagnosed either as autistic, ADHD, schizophrenic, bipolar. There's all this kind of definitions. And what Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness and also the founder of Access X-Men, realized when he worked with a lot of people that came to him like, hey, there is something incredibly wrong with me or my child. Can you please help us here? Every time he actually went to facilitate and look at what was wrong, he actually discovered this incredible potency and capacity these people had to, and one of these incredible capacities and potencies is the ability to pick up other people's thoughts, feelings, and emotions to a degree that you really think it all belongs to you. And it's like to this degree where it's really like going into your head and going and going and going and going and going and going and going, and you start to create your reality from there, rather than asking questions, knowing that what if 300% of whatever goes on in your head or in your world has nothing to do with you. And it's that, you know, how even when you ask questions, but there is still that little bit of doubt. Maybe we can ask the entities also to step a little back because I don't see you well. But if there's still
We meet
little
later, guys. We meet later. Sorry.
Yeah, I love it. Put your business hours on. But if you have this little bit of doubt, what I've seen is that I will always primarily ask questions like, who does this belong to? Already thinking that it's somewhere must have to do with me or with something that is visible to me. And so what was brilliant here, we actually were talking about it and then looking at all the things, the people in the house, all these kind of elements that were actually also present. But it only actually made sense the minute we went to ask oh my God, because I know that you told me that the owner of the property actually died not too long ago, and now his kids are included in that whole property. And so that was when actually there was a lot of things starting to shift in the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And it was interesting as well because as we were talking, there was also, I was aware of a light pressure on my chest, which was also like an indication of like, oh, there's entities here as well involved. So that was pretty cool to acknowledge there's all that stuff going on, and there's also like that physical symptom of like, that's for me a symptom entities are aware, that pressure on your chest, like you feel like you feel like there's something wrong with your heart, or like,
Wow.
for people who ever think like I feel like I'm having a heart attack, might be awareness of entities, who knows.
Yeah. And I love it. That's my, like, you know, how you say like, oh, that pressure on my chest is really like, for me, often an indication of like entities are present. And one of the, like, so we're here for the X-Men class, but there is also like Talk to the Entities, which has been created by Shannon O'Hara, where it's truly about starting to discover what are your signs of like particular energetic awarenesses hanging around you. And so if we look at the domain of the spirit world, the entities, for most of us, there is like this particular sensations or emotions or behaviors that we will have that are all different for each one of us, or your children might have, or the people in your life might have, where they start to behave as not being them. But then the question is, do you truly know who you are?
That's a good one, because like that is a very good one. I have been asking that myself, like, well, would I have more ease with all this awareness if I would really, really know who I am? But then like there's this other thing where, you know, we learn with the tools of access consciousness that we create ourselves every day. So this is like, you know, it's how do we go with that to have more ease with this, to be like more response able, instead of like where I went like, oh, you're like, you're sort of like, feel like you're like buried under like a pile of poo and like, oh.
Yeah, but sometimes that's true question that you get there. And like when you were talking, and I was like, why does she keep saying she's stuck? I literally know that girl for years now. And if there is somebody that moves like quicker than the sun, house to house to house, and she always finds a way to actually change the house, like change the contracts, change the things. And I'm like, why would you be stuck this time? You know, and this might be one of the symptoms for ourselves that we sometimes don't even, like, you know, when you're in somewhere that you don't even realize, like, if you've managed to create, and I think it's for a lot of people, and also for me, like, do you know yourself, and do you actually like trust yourself, or do you keep forgetting what you're actually capable of and how you function, because that other thing is so vast? And I had it a lot with like thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And last week I came to the forest and suddenly there was space and there were no thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I was like, wow, what will it take for me to actually start to know that that's what I am? And it's not because 99% of the time you hang around in the city, or you hang around people that's more who you are. It's more to start to acknowledge, like, okay, so if you're truly alone, or, and even like, you know, if you're alone, or you don't even need to be alone, but do you trust yourself, and do you know who you are and how you function?
Wow. Yeah. It's like, and it's funny that you bring this up in the conversation, because like definitely like in the last couple of months, for some reason, I finally by, you know, listening to certified facilitators such as you, I'm really grateful for that, where I think this is one was like from Julia Sodas at one point, where she was like, I surround myself as much as possible with what's real and true for me. And that really like pinged me. And I started doing that. And this is so funny. I've started to have like more clarity of like what's real and true for me, and not like who I am. And then, you know, with this house, I'm very happy that you were here to say like, yeah, but, because yeah, that makes all the difference. Because if you're like, for me, before I've ever heard of an access tool or who does it belong to, I was constantly swimming in the stuff that wasn't mine. I was like drowning in all these feelings, thoughts, and emotions, and always super convinced this is me, and I'm fucked. I'm fucked up. While pretending I was not, but
Help
like
me.
really deep down convinced I was,
Yeah.
and proving to the world that I was not. So very twisted and gnarly.
Well, it's interesting what you say also, because like one of the things when you say like, wow, I want to surround myself with what's real and true for me, that also might entice what I've seen for myself to really be more present and ask more questions. Because one of the things that's real and true for me is like the spirit world. And so if I don't ask like questions enough, I will often like arrive in like places that are so light, but are completely haunted. Because that's what's real and true for me. And I didn't ask like, wow, is it also going to work for me? Because it's real and true. But then you have like all these like degrees of like questions you can play with to actually become aware, like, okay, so what is that choice going to create? What's that choice going to create? What's that choice going to create? And that's the cool thing about like awareness. And also as an X-Men, be aware of that there is no separation between past, present, and future. So how much is all your awareness also like you don't really have clarity because all like goes through each other. And that's the thing, if you don't ask questions, you'll always be like fucked because like it's just one big field and there is no separation between you and anything. It's impossible as an X-Men to separate yourself from what or whomever.
So what is like well, we obviously already touched. My question was like, what is a great tool to go with this? We already touched one, is like basically like what's go out and like really like what's real and true for you and become more aware and present with that. So what is like a next one when you're, because like I must say like this morning I was using tools. I was using the distractor implants. I was using who does it belong to. I was like, well, what do you love about this, Evie? And then and then actually the last one, I asked what's right about this that I'm not getting. And then we are here now together.
Well,
so
yeah. Well, I would say like where have we learned that hard work is gonna give us the fruits that we're looking for? Because this is something like in this reality, you need a lot of hard work to change stuff. And what I see for myself, it's often so tempting to start the hard work rather than looking, oh gosh, I use this tool. It's not really changing. Okay, so what am I aware of? 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 Before you start even to use any tool. Because like if you don't like, it's as if you're gonna like start to move. You need to go from like from house A to or from point A to point B. But you have like in your GPS, like you're actually pretending as if you're in another country. You will never get there because literally those places don't exist in that country, maybe. And so that's something I've seen myself and a lot of people do, is that you will not check like, okay, which map do I need? What am I aware of? And then when you have that map, like, okay, I think I'm dealing, for this example, like, oh, I'm dealing with entities. Okay, now what am I going to do with it? And so if you're not, like, this is the thing with the access tools, they're so amazing, they're so quick. And if it's not changing quick, what are you aware of that you're not acknowledging? Because like most of us, we've learned how to get rid from something that's uncomfortable. And so we will just take any map and just start looking on the map and see how we can move out of there. We can like, let me see how I can move from where I am right now, rather than looking at, okay, so what's going on here? What gift am I that facilitates greater consciousness always? And how can I have ease with that?
Cool. I just realized also I could have gone like that way. And I think I was like so focused on the story of it that I was like looking for the solution to fix the problem of the story that I put on it, which was not even, it was not even about that. Well, it was like the fact like I am stuck here in this house, I can't get out. And I don't know if you mentioned it here or did I mention in this Facebook Live, but what was going on for me with this story and this awareness was right what I was aware of the dad that I'm going to have a conversation later with him. He's like, he's here waiting for it. That like how much of the feelings, thoughts, and emotions of like I'm stuck, I can't get out, or his.
Yeah.
And
Amazing.
yeah. So when you're like, I've done that so many times, and it's what would it take to like have so much more ease with this, where you're like, so you have like an awareness, and then you try to understand it, and you turn it into a story, and now you're like stuck, and the awareness like never develops or comes to you. It's sort of like molded and twisted to never be understood, to never be like, to never like accessed. You don't access your greatness about it as well. Like it's just you stop it. You stop the possibility.
Well, and there's another thing also, since we're talking about X-Men actually, like as the main topic, this was where we're going to go, and then these conversations always go wherever they want to go. But there is also like all these things that you actually, like you came in and you didn't know how to do them, right? X-Men are not really good at stories. They're not really good at like judging. They're not really good at having points of views. But then like, how much like, even in school, you were asked about your point of view. What's your judgment about this? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Rather than what are you aware of? And so we learned all these kind of patterns, behaviors, how to profile ourselves in the world. So we're so good at like, we think that we like, okay, so now this is me. I really know how to do this, but you still don't really know. It's still like this guessing point, because anything that isn't from awareness is actually not your reality as an X-Man. And this is something that I've seen shifting and changing so much in these one-day classes that I facilitate, and many other facilitators facilitate as well. It's the unexplored possibility, where you start to look at, oh my God, how many things have you learned that are not at all your reality? But like there is this thing with learning that makes it so solid, and it needs to be right, because only when it's right you can actually create with that. And so it seems like you have to go through there to go to your reality, rather than acknowledging, you know what, I don't think I'm really good at stories. I don't think I'm really good at judging. And like points of views, I still work hard to actually give my point of view on something, but ask me for my awareness and I'll be able to give it like that. And rather than acknowledge like, okay, this is how I function, like whatever. One of the things that I noticed this morning was like, I'm not really good at learning history stuff. I make me look at something, and I did it like a few days ago. We arrived at like a beautiful, like, I think it was like a castle or something like that. And there were all this kind of explanations, and I literally couldn't read it. And I was like, wow, today I was looking at that and I was like, I don't think I'm really good at reading things that have been invented and are energetically not true. And so
not relevant.
It's just not true. It's not that it's wrong, and it's just part of a created reality. And I wonder how many people here also, you have just not been really good at things that aren't energetically true. And rather than acknowledging that, you make yourself wrong for it.
Can I ask or like add something to that? It's so funny that I'm here again, like with my story, and then like the stuff that you just said before, because I on this little quest of like what's real and true for me, I start to like acknowledge more where I am talking a lie, where I'm saying something that's like not real for me, or when I'm with places or like people that are not real. And I remember like a little while ago, I was meeting with some people, and I was really not in the mood to talk. Like I was like social, but we were going to do some creation stuff. So that was like the reason for me to meet. And I was so not into any social aspect of it, and I was like getting more aware of some stories, and I'm like, I was like sort of like done with all that story stuff, and then these people started with stories. And at one point it was like so funny. I started a story of my own. And I could like, and they were like saying to me like, oh, that's a funny story. And I was like looking at it, and it was not real and it was not true for me. and then that other lady was like asking me something about it, but it was like a point of view. And I felt stuck for days. And then it took me, a couple of days to like, oh, well, I was actually, it was a lie. It was my lie. The story was my lie. And then the way that they reacted to it was also a lie. So it was a lie on a lie. And,
Wow.
and then I got that I was actually telling a story so I could fit in. And I've done that my whole life.
Which is actually brilliant. By the way, like if you listen to this and you're like, oh my God, I do that all the time, it's brilliant. But like you see how it can affect you when you start buying it, because then you're stuck. Rather than just knowing like, oh, I can invent any story to like fit in, but without my need to fit in. That's brilliant, right?
Yeah, and I think that's like one of the things with Access X-Men for me personally, that like brought light to this thing where I always felt like I was always so I'm like a chameleon. I can be so adaptive to everything and everyone, and to such a degree that I'm like totally lost. Not anymore these days, thank God. And thanks to Access X-Men, I have way more freedom with being me, and like and even like with this title, the undiscovered, unexplored possibilities, like that has become more available.
I love it. Yeah. Well, and yeah, if that's something you've been looking at, oh my God, I feel constantly lost in all the pool of emotions that is going on around me. I don't know who I am. I've been projected at so much that today, like, I feel like totally incapable. Or maybe you have been like handicapping yourself with all your points of views, your stories, definitions of you. And these classes are really like an invitation to start going beyond that. And to step into like a space that will show you like, hey, you're not wrong if you don't know who you are. Actually, what if that's the most powerful place to start from? Because then you can be anything. And that's the thing I've seen a lot of like X-Men being capable of, but then they keep thinking it's not real and true, or it's wrong, or it's like, you shouldn't be doing that, rather than, okay, what can I create with this?
Isn't that also like one of the tools in Access X-Men is like, what if your biggest wrongness is your biggest strongness, or what if your wrongness is your strongness, or what ability is this that I'm not acknowledging?
Yeah. Yep. Oh my God. And so a lot of people are actually here. Hello from Nepal.
Are there any questions? I can't see anything.
You should be
now
able to
I do.
Yeah, there's no questions. Does anybody has a question? And so,
thank you, everybody. This is cool reading these comments. Mwah. Oh, well, if there are any questions,
now is the time.
Now is the time.
We're gonna like close up this. I'm so grateful.
And there's also sorry. Yes, thank you. Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay. Yeah, thank you very much for this conversation and the conversation that we had before this live conversation. And this is like there is Access X-Men worldwide. I think there are like these days more and more X-Men facilitators popping up like mushrooms.
Absolutely. Isn't that incredible? And there's also more and more X-Men showing up. So it's like, I don't know if people are been wondering about becoming a facilitator or actually choosing a class. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Is it what this is? Are we ready? Is it that we are really, really, really ready for this conversation? Are we ready to
hear it? We're never ready for this conversation. This conversations in these classes, like, I don't know if you'll ever be ready. It's just a choice. And it's like every class, time and time again, I've been giving a lot of them like over the last few months. Gosh, like no class is the same. And every class is this exploration of going beyond and creating a different future. Like, you know, this is what X-Men are here for. and you cannot fit in, like, you know, let's say that like 200 years ago, we would have been there and we would have said like, oh my God, like in 200 years from now, we're going to have this thing and it's called like a computer. And then we're going to have this Zoom and we're going to stream that all over live stream and people all over the world will see that. They would have literally probably said like, you're totally crazy. We're going to lock you up. And this is where, if you're here to create a future that will last like, or that will only start to materialize maybe like 20, 50, 100, 200 years from now, what if you could start to support yourself rather than make yourself wrong? What if you could start to see how can you also create with that today? And I think that's something that's really being instigated through these classes during the one day for the people that choose them.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. I would say if this is something that's like a big pop in your world, check out Yaso's website and check out Access X-Men. And there's also a bunch of X-Men classes coming up also with Yaso. And we're going to add all that to this video. So you can, it's easy peasy for you to just click and check, and that's it. And wow, really, what else? Oh my God, what else is possible that we don't think is possible?
Really? That's truly it. And so the classes will be in different time zones. So I will have one this week. Oh no, coming week. The week after. So yes, check it out. Netherlands, Mexico, daytime, nighttime. Let's just do this. Let's create this. Let's get out of the present so we can start to create the future. And let's get out of the past, because a lot of people I know have been very invested to create their present based on the past. But what if you could actually start to create your present based on your future and the future you're aware of?
Yeah. Totally different. Totally different reality.
Totally different. Yep. Yes. Thank you so much, Ivy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody out there.
And see you guys all. Thanks for joining us, and see you for the next conversation. Bye.
Bye.